What's up, y'all? I hope you are well. We're here for our weekly anchor message where we just look a little bit deeper into the energy of the week and we get a sense of our spiritual lessons that we'll be working with. And to do that, we are using the Wild Unknown Archetypes, clarified by the Mystical Moments Tarot. So from the Wild Unknown, we've got the Vision, followed by the Hunter, followed by the Bardo, and then underneath those, we had the Storm with the Kiss. They came out as like a pair. They were jumpers kind of after the fact. And then underneath Vision, we have Three of Pentacles. Underneath the Hunter, we've got the Sun. And underneath the Bardo, we've got Six of Cups. So, just starting with the jumpers. Myself and mostly everyone I've talked to over the last several days has been in this cluster of tests. This is good. This feels like a bad sign, but it actually means that energy is moving. And when there's like a little shitstorm of tests, it's usually a sign that we are about to break through to our next level. And the opponent is pushing our buttons and triggering us to try to short circuit us. However, the creator uses the opponent to do that and foils his plan to, throw us off our game, and actually uses those tests to break us open to even more of our light and to shed that negativity. So basically what's been happening, and this kiss right here, this is when we have this sacred moment where we are face to face with the creator, where we're having a spiritual experience, where we're recognizing spirit at play in things and making moves, and we are feeling the presence of divine within certain situations and the way things are playing out. It's like we know there's more going on than meets the eye here. This isn't just these mundane tests coming up. These are destined, patterned, assigned, like, okay, cue this person, cue that pattern there, right? So this is a very sacred opportunity to see literally the things that are blocking our goals. This week in my Kabbalah class, I was watching one of the lessons, and there was a workshop in the lesson, and it was one of the most useful things ever because it aligned with the energies that have been going on in the last week or so, and it also aligned with where I am in the To Be Magnetic Manifesting Challenge, which is like looking at your challenges this past year. How have you been challenged? What have your tests been? Like, how have you been pushed to grow? What's been difficult for you this year? So going deeper and unpacking that, I saw the synchronicity in my Kabbalah class that I happened to be studying that same week. And the questions were in the workshop, it was, so say you have, like, get a piece of paper, and it has to be on a piece of paper. It can't be like in your notes. But you need to separate that piece of paper into a left-hand column and a right-hand column. And on the right-hand column or the left-hand column, write your 3 dearest goals to your heart right now. Your 3 dreams that you have that are like your immediate, like, I wish I had this dream coming true right now. Like just 3. Don't think about it. Just write them down. Now, in the right-hand column, what are the 3 things that you're being challenged in right now? Like, what are your 3 main challenges that in your tikkun that's coming up? That's like the things in your soul that you are like constantly challenged with. Now, without thinking about it, write those down. Then after you've listed them, you probably already had an order in your mind, like remember that order and where they correspond. Because one, your goal is being blocked by number one, that problem, that part of your ego, personality, the shadow coming up, the subconscious pattern. That problem is the thing that needs to be like worked on and healed in order to fix number one goal. Number two goal corresponds with the second problem you thought of. Those two things are interconnected. So if you want to unblock number two goal, you need to work on correcting and shifting and transforming number two problem. And number three corresponds with number three. This was revelation and revolution all at once. It was crazy how much I was like, okay, that definitely makes sense and it checks out. So basically this little shitstorm, this divine shitstorm that's hit suddenly, that's like, what is up with all these tests? Like literally part of that workshop I went through last night and started writing down all my recent tests, things that were like testing me, things that would normally get me triggered. They would trigger financial trauma and worry, like, oh no, like an unexpected this or that, or something, you know, like scary around like a health issue, or, you know, something that is triggering about like the people in your, you know, immediate circles and, you know, dynamics and patterns there. Like, if you have, you know, like if certain things are on brand for you, like I had like always have had like car issues. And so tires, like I needed new tires, like my tires just blew out in the driveway the other day. And then, you know, I needed to replace the other two, and it wasn't like things that I was planning on doing. And normally, or in the past, those things might have triggered me, right? They might have triggered me into like patterns of behavior, or, you know, certain like levels of anxiety over it. And this time I was just like, I just dealt with it. It didn't like ruffle my feathers at all. It didn't take me on the ups and downs of like, oh, what's now, you know? So those were moments where you like face these familiar things that come up in these little shit storms. And then you're able to use the current embodiment of like the experience and your recent wisdom and actually like embody it and put it into practice. And so those are moments where you get to practice these new positive default settings, these new subconscious patterns, the positive, healthy ones that we're trying to replace, you know, ones that were lacking, so to speak. So it needed, you know, balance and correction. So sacred opportunity to do this. The more that we are, you know, working on healing these patterns and then embodying that new kind of like consciousness, that new, like where we can like choose with sovereignty, like how we want to proactively meet the situation. We're having more affinity with that higher self within. We're shedding those layers of negativity, right? Our limiting beliefs, you know, our subconscious patterning, our temper, our temptations, all those things that make us want to reach for instant gratification or to receive for the self alone, those things that short circuit us in our process. It's like the more we heal those, the more momentum we have in making, like things are starting to come together. It's like our vision is becoming very clear, and we're starting to see that the vision is starting to take shape and it's spreading. It's like people are starting to understand and grasp even our vision more. It's like, not only are we getting it, and like we've been wondering so long, like, why isn't anybody like getting this? Like, why, like, come on board with me. It's like all of a sudden it's like it clicks and your concept starts taking off, and maybe you've tried to pitch it to people and now they're starting to like get where you're coming from, get what you're offering. People are starting to work with you. Your goals, you're starting to see them coming together. And so by doing that workshop, right, that we just talked about, maybe you've been subconsciously kind of doing that recently and putting the pieces together. And so as we've been healing, as we've been changing, as we've been transforming, and as we've been going through these tests and getting through them in a more evolved way, we might have noticed that in little signs and synchronicities, little moments of manifestation, that things are starting to happen. There's signs of life. There's things blooming and budding and like sprouting, little sprouts, little sparks going off. And so the Three of Pentacles, it's like things are coming together. We're building. This is like the first stage of, starting to become recognized for your skills and starting to develop a level of, early mastery in those skills. And, people wanting to collaborate with you. But this is really about like things coming together and building, like minds coming together and collaborating in a team effort. But this is all centered around that big vision that's happening. And so we're getting more and more clear. The more healing that we do, the more clarity we're gaining. The more of that transformational work, it's like the more certainty in the light that we're growing. That no matter what these storms are, that we're weathering them, right? That certainty, what that is, it's not like, oh, I know exactly how everything's going to turn out and I'm just sure about that. What that means is that shitstorm's going on. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that I'm going to be okay. That Creator has a plan. That if I pause and I take a minute to connect with Source and Holy Spirit, that guidance is there. And if I ask for strength, please help me have strength. Please help me see these patterns. Please help me know what actions to take in order to heal these things, in order to unblock me in these areas so that I can elevate and expand and transcend my current station in this area. So the storm is bringing an opportunity, and so we need to embrace. And the more that we embrace these difficult like learning situations, like these tests, it's like it gives us extra miracle juice. It gives us extra like effectiveness in our transformation, extra spiritual support. And then it increases the level of miracle that can come through. It increases the level of fulfillment that we can gain when the fulfillment of our manifestation happens. And so we're starting to see the positive results of the work that we've been doing, the spiritual work, the spiritual transformation. We're seeing it, things starting together. And so we're seeing the positive results. We're feeling the difference of, what it's like to pause and resist our base instincts to be reactive and short circuit. And bypassing that instant gratification, we're feeling we don't have that backlash, that hangover that comes after, taking light and energy from a negative action, right? And so instead of doing that, having that instant jolt of energy and adrenaline and that rush, and then having to come down and feeling terrible about it, it's like we're starting to see, okay, like I don't want to feel that way anymore. I'd rather feel good. And so we're feeling the positive shift that we're making. We're seeing the difference in our lives, and it's giving us more motivation. It's giving us even more determination. The hunter is like determined, willpower, strength, grit. The hunter sees what they want and they go after that, but they don't do it in a loud, clanging way. The hunter is quiet, is subtle, is patient, is strategic and graceful and masterful in the way that they go after their goal. So they see that there is rhyme and reason, and they know how to follow the patterns and signals, right, that nature leaves behind. They can track what they're going after, right? Their prey. Think of your goal as prey, and think of these tests as tracking signals. Oh, I see that there's footprints here, right? When I see the storm, that means that the opponent is close by messing with me, and that means that my miracle is close by, and that means that I am about to have a breakthrough a major healing, a major transformation, a major opportunity, meeting of like minds or kindred spirits or a soulmate situation. It's like before these things happen, the universe tests you. And so instead of being caught off guard by these tests and thrown into a spin and a downward spiral of like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? It's so easy to be victimized by these things. And instead, see yourself as a contender. Wow, I'm up leveling. My opponent is up leveling. I'm going to the next level. I'm going to varsity level, right? So my opponent is going to be meeting me there too, playing that same game I'm at, right? And so at that same level. And so it's almost like, ooh, when you think about it that way, when you're like, I'm about to have a breakthrough, I'm about to have an opportunity. When you see storms, you're out there rain dancing because you're like, hell yeah, something great is about to happen. And if I don't short circuit, and if I don't lose my faith, and if I stay in a sense of certainty and don't lose control, don't, have a reaction that sort of like ruins all of the things that I've, put in. It's like you see the benefit of holding that self-control in and not making any rash moves or rash decisions and not having that short circuit. So the hunter under the sun, right? The sun, clarity, awakening, right? We're seeing the big picture. Oh my gosh, we're having this emotional and mental and spiritual renewal, like a new determination, a new grit, an ability to push through, to power through the seeming darkness, right? And keep galloping towards the light. The sun is about the rebirth of consciousness, right? It's, usually depicts a naked baby riding on a white horse, which is innocence, it's rebirth, it's purity. So we are seeing these past patterns. The Six of Cups is like looking back in nostalgia, and sometimes it's thinking about like remembering things as better than they were, but many times it's remembering things worse than what they were, or things being a little bit askew, being overly nostalgic or sentimental. This is, for me, a lot of times the Six of Cups is about healing things from childhood or past patterns, or, apologies being made, coming together after the disruption and the fight of the Five of Cups. It's like the healing, the coming back together. Sometimes this is people coming back from the past, but in this particular reading, I think that this is definitely talking about getting insight and awakening and enlightenment in regards to our childhood patterning, our distant past issues and baggage and wounds, right, that have been stored in our subconscious, creating limiting beliefs about ourselves and damaging our self-worth in ways that we didn't even notice, we didn't even realize until recently, when these things are being pushed in our face to be dealt with. So that's why the Bardo is here. The Bardo is this liminal space where it's like between death and rebirth. So it's like we're being advised, pause. Don't make any false moves. Don't say anything yet. Just sit and observe and look and see what is coming up to be healed, and then work on that and let that actually fuel all of these manifestations and this awakening and these new opportunities coming forward. But just know that right now it's good to just sit tight, to try to reflect on the greater lesson that's going on right now. So we're pausing, we're embracing this opportunity to look closer at these issues coming up, these tests, these triggers. And the more that we do, the more we're unblocking our vision from actually coming into manifestation. But it's also making things more clear in our mind, more clear in our energy, more clear in our heart. But it's a huge awakening, a huge rebirth, a huge reset. And we're elevating our consciousness, and our life is starting to show signs of that. But we really, like, it's all about unblocking these things that workshop wise, like, remember those 3 questions and go back and watch that part again and stop and actually do that. But healing those wounds, those old patterns, that's the assignment that's going to make way for the most progress coming up. So don't rush through this liminal space. It's actually a gift at this moment. It's giving us time to close the gap of our consciousness so it doesn't leave room for the opponent to get in and create more havoc and chaos. All right, y'all. Very exciting. Getting clear on the vision, determination to keep powering through, not getting discouraged by the storm, but actually seeing the storm as like a guarantee that like good things are on the way, and that this is just like the opponent trying to disrupt that, right? You can almost guarantee and predict the opponent's storm with more certainty than you can an actual literal meteorological storm. Like a weather storm, things can change, right? Conditions will change. There are variables up in the air. They could predict a storm, and in 10 minutes in the south, it's not going to storm. But the opponent storm, you can guarantee that's going to, signs of 100% chance of shitstorm every day for the opponent. The opponent will never not be in your face. Ever. So just expect that. Don't let it victimize you. Just know that this is part of being in the arena. It's part of being on a spiritual path, right? This does not happen as much for people who aren't growing spiritually, because their opponent doesn't have, like, there's no point, right? They're not in the game. But it's when you're like, you know what? I want to grow spiritually. I want to heal my soul. I want to elevate my consciousness. Game on. Opponent up in your face. People who don't have much of an opponent around, they're not really growing. They're just kind of like treading water, right? So don't see that as a curse or a burden or a toil. Even though it feels like a burden and a toil, it's actually a huge opportunity to set you up for big time miracles and blessings and favor. All right, y'all. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, night. I hope you have a good week ahead. I hope we can weather these storms together. And the more that we weather these storms, it just solidifies our certainty in the Creator, gives us more resilience, more inner strength, and more understanding and insight and wisdom and compassion. And, you know, the action to take is always, you know, centered in compassion, but it's not always crystal clear what that move is, you know? So, because we've got to be compassionate towards others, but also towards ourselves. And then we have to, you know, consider healthy boundaries, you know, and there's things to consider. So that's why it's good to take our time and pray for the support of the Creator to help us see things clearly, to help us interpret clearly, and to help us have the strength to embody the wisdom. And that's usually the hard part. Usually we know what to do. It's just the hard part is actually overcoming the temptation to not want to do it. Ay, ay, ay. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Bye.